video, I'm going to be showing you guys the updated version of my African Black Soap Face Wash. The ingredients include tea tree oil, rosehip oil, vitamin E oil, and of course our African Black soap. Everything in here is organic and all natural. So to begin, I just grabbed a pot. You can grab any old pot, it doesn't matter, because all we're going to be doing is filling this with water and boiling it. So in this clip, I am filling it with water. Depending on how big the bottle that you're filling is, that's how much water you will put in it. And once it's filled to your desire, you're going to place your pot on the stove. I started out by cutting my soap in half. I've used quite a bit of this soap already. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was about a pound on here. This soap has lasted me a long time and I'm barely even finishing it. But yeah, I just cut it in half because I wasn't going to use that entire chunk. I was struggling a little bit because I had a small knife, but if you can, get a larger one. And once I cut it in half, I just removed the wrapping on it, or the plastic. I started out by cutting it with the knife and trying to cut small chunks, which is what I used to do, but I realized that I had a cheese grater and I decided to use that instead to get finer pieces. And the reasoning behind that is because the smaller the pieces are, the easier it is to melt and the quicker it takes to melt, and it just saves time. So I found it really easy to use the cheese grater instead. In the beginning, it was taking me a little longer because I don't think I was using the cheese grater properly. So once I got towards the end, I went a little quicker because I kind of got the gist of everything and I got the hang of how I wanted to hold the soap. I will admit that this does look very weird on this plate, but there's nothing wrong with it, I promise you. It's actually so much more beneficial doing it this way versus cutting it in the chunks like I did before, because when I was cutting it in the chunks like I used to do, I noticed that it took longer for it to melt, and like I said, it just saves a lot of time to actually have smaller pieces, and it hurts my wrist a lot less. And here's our soap in all of its glory. As you can see, it is cut up very finely and very, very, very perfectly. I'm glad I did this, and I'm glad I had the idea to go ahead and grab that cheese grater because this was so helpful in the end. After all of that, you want to go ahead and grab yourself a very large bowl, because what you're going to be doing is pouring your soap inside of that bowl. And at this point, your water should be boiling, so you can grab that off of the stove and you're just going to pour that boiling hot water directly onto the soap. At this point, you're going to let your soap soak. Now, I grabbed a plastic fork and I mixed it together with the water before I let it sit. I like to use plastic because I feel like it's similar to bleach when you're using bleach to bleach your hair. I don't really want the metals from the spoon to mix in with my soap and alter the natural ingredients from it, so I just try not to do that. That's never been scientifically proven, but that's just me in my head. After that, I take off the plastic wrap that I used to let it sit in. And after that, I just mix up the soap really good with that same plastic fork or spoon or whatever it is that I was using. And I just mix it up really good so that I can make sure that everything is thoroughly distributed inside of the water. Now, throughout your mixing, you should be seeing suds at this point, which just lets you know that when you go to use your soap that you get a very good lather, and that also lets me know that my soap has kept its integrity throughout the mixing process and throughout the boiling process. After that, I've got my funnel ready, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour my soap into the bottle. I did make a bit of a mess at this point, and I think you can kind of see it running at the bottom, but that's okay, that's what cleaning is for, and I did clean up my mess. And after that, I'm going to begin putting in my oils of choice, and one of the oils that I decided to use is vitamin E oil, which moisturizes skin, it heals your wounds, and it prevents or minimizes the appearance of scars. The next oil that I decided to use is tea tree oil, and it's actually one of my favorite oils. It's anti-inflammatory, antifungal, and antimicrobial, Now, with it being antimicrobial, this just helps with the shelf life of the product, and it just keeps nasty little organisms from growing inside of it and weird bacteria, so ultimately making the soap last longer, which is what I like. And then lastly, we have our rosehip oil, which hydrates and moisturizes the skin. It helps reduce inflammation and it boosts collagen. Now, we all know the saying, black don't crack. I know. But if you want that to be you need to get this rosehip oil, you guys, because the collagen in the rosehip oil is what keeps your skin plump, and that's what keeps it youthful. And our last and final step is to just pour all of our oils inside of our container. You can do this actually before you pour your soap into the container, but it doesn't really matter ultimately because you're gonna have to mix it up anyway, and I just mix mine up by shaking my container. And you guys, that is pretty much it. That is my updated soap. I hope you guys like this video, and I hope that it was helpful to someone out there that is struggling with acne like I was a while ago. If you do end up trying this out, let me know in the comments below how it worked for you. I would love to see it, honestly. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one.